Oh, this fucking glitch again. Okay, cool. My... You know, I wonder what happens if I actually, like, throw out the... Where is that freaking... It's not an air support charge. Dude, where is the remote cameras? Oh my god. Oh, okay, cool. That doesn't do anything.
Down. That clears up some space.
Is it shooting the floor? Oh, that fixed it. Fuck. Hey, what is going on, all my fellow godlies and Warframe enthusiasts around the world? This is Vance, again, with yet another Warframe God builds for an Archwing, and today we're going to be visiting the meta, the absolute top tier, 100% go-to for Railjack missions. I put it off and put it off and put it off and put it off until I just couldn't do it anymore, and that is Amesha. Amesha has been the go-to, and there has been absolutely nothing better since Railjack's release. And it's kind of sad because this is an Archwing that was introduced with the second 8-player raid. That was really, really long ago, you guys. I mean, that was a game mode that is not with us anymore. It died. Which means that the old way of building for Amesha should have went with it. I mean, everything in terms of Archwing should have gone with it. Nonetheless, Digital Extremes has been very vocal about rebalancing Archwing and Railjack and all those things, and with Operation Scarlet Blade, we can hope that they're gonna make good on those promises. But until then, we're just gonna review Archwings like any other. So, with your abilities for Amesha, your first ability is called the Watchful Swarm. Tiny drones orbit the Warframe or an ally and intercept enemy fire. This is obviously great for shielding yourself, and it's basically God mode for this Archwing. It's going to be absolutely necessary for you to jump out into Railjack and use this power as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will be one-shotted by all the enemy fighters and the cruise ships that are coming in. You don't actually see the swarm, or at least I don't. You know, you feel free to correct me in the comments section, but I don't see a swarm. It doesn't look like anything's going on at all. It's really hard to tell that there's a power being used unless you're watching your HUD and it says it's being used. So maybe there's a visual upgrade that's necessary here. You be the judge. Your second ability is the Benevolent Decoy. Holy shit, words. Benevolent Decoy. How many times can you say that fast without screwing it up? Creates a beacon that draws enemy fire, converting the damage into healing pulses. So this is essentially like a Nyx Absorb combined with a Trinity's Blessing. And it would have been a lot more beneficial for this Archwing to come out a lot sooner than what it did, instead of just be the one-trick pony for the second raid. Because you might have had a better use for it other than just using it as everyone's go-to for Railjack. The third ability is Warding Grace. It renders the Warframe and nearby allies immune to status effects while slowing nearby enemies. There's no use for status effects in space. They really don't have a consequential effect on you or a whole lot of the enemies. Freezing things obviously slows them down, and corrosive helps quite a bit to tear through armor, but other than that, it's just not a big deal. It's very lackluster, so the only time you're going to be using Warding Grace is to slow down enemy fighters. And as an Amesha user, on a Railjack that's probably not all that strong, you're going to be using this often. And it is going to absolutely tear through your energy. One could only hope that if you are on a Railjack that is relatively weak, that the crew members all have Amesha Archwings, and you can alternate who is using the Warding Grace, because otherwise you guys are going to burn through energy way too quickly. I don't see a use for this outside of Railjack fighters. So when I go into the logistics of Railjack in a future video, I will talk about building specifically for making your Archwing stronger, and hopefully the Amesha of that group will have a star-studded role in that environment. Your Vengeful Rush. All damage taken is transferred into energy, while abilities gain enhanced range, duration, and power effects the Warframe and nearby allies. So you can replenish your energy. This is fun because this makes it so you can actually be viable as a healer replacement in an Eidolon hunt. That's crazy, right? Again, another thing I plan to showcase in a later video, but for now, just know that if you don't have a Trinity and you don't have an Oberon, you can still heal the drones using the Amesha. It's crazy. It's just really, really crazy. It's an underrated Archwing for Eidolon hunting, and a super overrated Archwing for Railjack. My, the roles that the Amesha has. Okay, so let's have a look at this build, shall we? Now, there's not going to be anything flashy here. You're going to have your Argon plating for armor, energy inversion for shield capacity, enhanced durability for health, Hyperion thrusters for flight speed, efficient transferal for ability duration, system reroute for ability efficiency, energy amplifier for ability range, and primorphic transformer for ability strength. There's not a whole lot of things to explain here, because you're going to need your abilities for different tasks, rather it be Railjack or Eidolon hunting, and this is probably the most universal setup that you could use. Not to mention that with the lackluster mods that we have available for Archwing right now, there's not a whole lot of ways to build for Archwing. As a matter of fact, I would say that there is no other way. What other mods would you use? This is probably going to be the most disappointing god build I've ever put together, and that's saying something, because I've been at this for about 5 years, and I love Amesha, don't get me wrong, but this is the most pathetic setup. Not because it's bad or anything. It's actually great. It's just we're limited. There's practically no other way to build. I don't even know why I'm doing this video, but nonetheless, I've chosen Phaedra to be my primary weapon with this loadout, because why not? It's like the best assault rifle Archwing weapon you've got at the time. I kind of wish that it didn't spread as much as it did. I wish that it had the accuracy of like a Velocitus, but I digress. Sabot rounds for your 60% damage additive with your punch through, contamination casting for your toxin and status chance, charged bullets combined with your contamination casting to make corrosive, also giving you the status chance. Hollowed bullets for critical damage, Ruby-Doo line barrel for 100% more damage, dual rounds for 60% multi-shot, parallax scope for 100% critical chance, and then critical focus for an additional 60% critical chance, and damage when aiming. So you're going to be aiming a lot because fighters are pretty quick, and you're going to need to slow them down. And it used to be really good damage when Railjack first came out, and now I'm not seeing as impressive numbers coming from it, and I would suspect that that has to do with Digital Extremes really pushing players to be all that they can be with Railjack instead of using their Ameshas as a go-to. Hopefully this just gets rebalanced in the future as they promised, and it's not utterly disappointing like it is now. Hopefully we have more alternative ways to build for Archwings. With your Aguza, I'm not gonna completely recommend this as a melee. I'm just choosing it because I roll with Excalibur anytime I use Amesha or Vauban, so it just fits the theme of what I'm doing, and it's purely an aesthetical thing. So if you're not fond of the Aguza, you don't have to use it at all, but the build for it nevertheless is Bleeding Edge for critical damage, Tempered Blade for critical chance, Poisonous Sting for Toxin, Galvanized Blade to make corrosive, Nebula Bore for puncture, Extend for range, Cutting Edge for melee damage, Glacial Edge for cold. And I feel like I've already covered this, so let's probably choose something else to pick and show a build there. What about Onyx? Have I ever covered that? Shoot, it's not even fully leveled up here. Only rank 29, what am I doing with my life? So I do have a complete build for this as well, with Astral Slash, Poisonous Sting, Galvanized Blade, Temporal Blade, Cutting Edge, Searing Steel, Furrow, and Bleeding Edge. As you can see, it's another standard build. And this is kind of why Warframe is, well, I may need to navigate to other video games at this point, because I've pretty much covered everything. The only thing left to do on my bucket list with Warframe is to do like group builds, and we'll cover that with Eidolon hunting, Railjack, and orb hunting as well. It's in a disappointing place right now. I have high hopes for Archwing and Railjack because Railjack is incredibly fun. As of this past weekend, recording on the 26th of February, I reached rank 10 intrinsics for my piloting, and unfortunately that has been disappointing too, because all the time that it took to grind for that rank, you would think that I would one-shot anything that I ran over, but I don't. And so I will reserve the rest of the critiquing for the actual Railjack video that I intend to do. So, in parting ways with you guys for the last of the God builds, unless I do newer Warframes that come out, I want to tell you that I will most likely be moving to other games. I am probably going to leave that as a surprise to my community, because it really all depends on how well I get into these games, because I've got a lot of stuff to do on my agenda in 2020, and I may not have a whole lot of time to do like a God build series for other games. As you would already know, being a longtime fan of mine, that I did Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 God builds. So you can probably look forward to whatever game I move to beyond that. But more importantly than that, my artwork has been building up to a point where it would finally reach into that realm of area that I promised years ago, which is actual animation. So hopefully in 2020 I can get my first book published, I can get it into the hands of everyone who supports me online, and then we can work on the animations and make a full-blown web series. So if you're interested in voice acting, I would always encourage that you add me on my Discord via all the links that I always provide in the description, and as always, comment, share, subscribe, hit that like button because it really helps me show up in the videos recommended in the current screwed up algorithms for YouTube. And until next time, this has been Vance signing out. Love y'all. Peace.